let's start Tuesday, the second business and markets day of the week with our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Thank you very much for standing by and joining us at this time. I am Bosin Amafaya, and we're here with today's edition of your program. The International Monetary Fund on Monday released its latest economic outlook report on the global economy with specific focus on sub-Saharan Africa and Nigeria in particular. So what did we have for our domestic economy? The report says that Nigeria's GDP growth for 2019 has now been upgraded to 2.3%. That's up about 0.4% than 1.9% that was announced last April by the International Monetary Fund. That's good news for Nigeria. However, for the current year, the IMF says it's retaining its forecast of GDP growth of 2.1%, but 2019 would be much better on improved crude oil prices, which, of course, as we speak this morning, is trading water. Brent crude for September delivery is about $71.50 a barrel early today, as traders and the market begin to consider the situation of Saudi Arabia putting more oil on the market, while the U.S. Inventories news is also out there. So oil prices trending lower, but the IMF says commodity prices, or oil prices in particular, will help Nigeria's economy move forward in 2019. Meantime, the IMF retained 3.4% GDP growth forecast for sub-Saharan Africa in 2018, but raised the 2019 forecast to 3.8%, a little bit higher, citing higher commodity prices in countries such as Nigeria. The IMF says the recovery in sub-Saharan Africa is set to continue, supported by the rise in commodity prices. Nigeria's growth is set to increase on the back of an improved outlook for oil prices, end of quote. And that's from the IMF overnight. Meantime, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, yesterday superintended the 8th Presidential Business Forum. He is in charge of the Economic Council, and he sat down yesterday with the private sector chieftains in Abuja, the country's political capital, reiterating the public-private sector partnership. The Vice President says, in practicality, every detail of the implementation of our ERGP, that's the country's economic recovery and growth plan, we have ensured a rigorous process of engagement with the private sector. The VP went on to add that we have dedicated groups looking at a variety of issues important to our export strategies. And that's part of what the Vice President says. So, in terms of trade policy, the VP says the government's motives are to use appropriate tools and instruments to strengthen the export potential within the economy and exporters who add value to goods. And now Nigeria is looking to other source of energy, and that will be biofuel coming from palm oil. The State Oil Corporation, or the NNPC, and the Cross River State say they are planning a 14 megawatts energy of biodiesel derived from empty fruit bunches and residue from oil palms. According to the NNPC, the 6,000-hectare facility will accommodate oil palm plantation co-located with biodiesel, crude palm oil cogeneration plants, and other facilities. Is going to be what you call an oil palm estate. That multi-million-dollar facility in Cross River State, according to NNPC Media Chief Ndu Gamadu, is now, the agency says, they've put their research and development division to conduct environmental and social impact assessment for the project. This will be the first of its kind in Nigeria, using palm oil to deliver biodiesel as energy to power a 14 megawatts electricity. It's a new project under a renewable energy program. And just in case you haven't heard, we are listing the first tranche of Nigeria's climate bond on Friday, this Friday on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Friday the 20th. That will be $10.2 billion US. The first tranche of the first SSA climate bond or green bond in sub-Saharan Africa. That will be on Friday. Meantime, listed energy trader Oando has issued a formal statement saying Oando PLC, quote, is not a party to the arbitration ruling by the London Court of International Arbitration in relation to $680 million payment. The London court, according to Oando, did not order Oando PLC to pay any sum of money to Ansbury Investments Incorporated, and Owando PLC is not in any way indebted to Ansbury Investments Incorporated. Owando added in that a two-pager statement that Owando reminds shareholders and the general public that the SEC-directed forensic audit of on-site review by appointed external auditor began in March 2018 and still ongoing. So the company says they will continue to cooperate with the SEC in the discharge of their duties as the capital markets regulator during this exercise of forensic audit, and update the market on any reports that may have bearing on investors' decision and the value of their shares. We'll get to that in a little bit while the markets took that news yesterday to the markets today. We'll see how the numbers finished off for Owando on Monday, the first trading day. Then we'll take a look at what may likely be the reaction today for the second day, as the company now says it was not named in that London International Court of Arbitration ruling of July the 6th. Meantime, FMDQ, OTC Securities Exchange, will be holding its annual general meeting on Friday next week, that's the 27th. And that will be taking place at its new multi-million naira headquarters in Victoria Island, in downtown Lagos. On that same day, the FMDQ says it will be commissioning that headquarter, which it says will be smarter and efficient, which will be hosting the FMDQ's Q-Hub trading simulation facility and every other thing. We'll try to be on ground and see what all that means as FMDQ unveils its new headquarters of its own, and out of a rented apartment, then holding its first annual general meeting within the new building. So let's go to the marketplace, and this is where we see the bearish sentiments on the market continuing in the new week, 0.34%, and that brings the all-share index, or what you call the composite or general index of the local stock market, to 37,266. And that sank the equity cap a little bit further, 13.499 trillion. We're down from 15.5. We lost a few billions of naira on the first trading day of the week. That was yesterday. Then in terms of volume, however, you saw that aggressive single transaction on Medview Airline, the only listed airline on our market here. $551 million of Medview shares were traded yesterday in a cross deal, and that moved the total volume traded on our market to 303.47, much higher than where we finished off on Friday. And of course, you see the value there for the entire market on Monday, $5.6 million US dollars. If you translate that naira figure by some exchange rate in very decent 3,402 transactions. I roll that over and see where we finish off on all the 5 key indices. It's all red. Okay, where we saw the most bleeding with the oil and gas. Just a second, we'll get there. Let's have from the top with the banking sector, down about 0.7%. Despite GT Bank was part of that yesterday, down by 0.75%. Consumer goods was down 0.14%. Industrial goods was down by 0.2%. Insurance lost 0.84%, and oil and gas much deeper, 1.85%. And that's where the story really is. So roll that over and look at the oil and gas stocks. Bellwether, Forte Oil, PLC lost 6.57% on Monday, less than 600,000 shares. And Owando came in with a very sharp decline, 9.38%. Investors sold 1.6 million shares of the energy trader, bringing the share price down to 5 naira 80 kobo on the day. That news came in that 2 of the directors who are part of the shareholding structure of the company were involved in the London Court arbitration judgment. The company itself, Owando says, is not involved. The company itself was not asked to repay any money to Ansbury Investment. You hear that already in the news. Owando clarifying that position. But investors' sentiment sent the sell pressure on the stock on Monday, bringing the share price down nearly 10%. Move on to Eternal Oil, and you see a very strong volume, more than 1 million shares. It finished on change at 640. Then Japol, the oil maritime services company, with operations in the Niger Delta, less than 500,000 shares. The share price was down 3.13% to 31 kobo per share. Let's move it to the NSE over the counter. That's the NSE OTC market, where the bullish sentiments that started last week continue at pace, where the USI is now a shy of 700, reading 692.75 on Monday. The market cap also stronger. We're well below 450. We're now 465.53 billion. On Monday, we traded about 111,000 unlisted securities on the day for 2.54 million local naira. Let's finish off this round with the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange. Look at the treasury bills market. Both the bond and treasuries were positive. Look at the numbers. At the treasury bills market, 113.90 billion naira for 418 transactions. Investors were very bullish on treasuries maturing January 17, 2019, and that was 50 transactions for 16.5 billion. That's quite a lot. But if you look at the discount high, and the first that you see 11.8, that's lower than what we've seen, about around 12%. That's a bit of an indication there. Then if you look at the second most actively traded treasury, was the 18th October 2018, later this year at 10.4%, 11.10 billion naira in 41 transactions. The market generally went bullish because investors priced the yield a little bit lower. Then look at the second page for the Naira bond, as we expect the debt office to conduct the July Naira auction for the first month in the third quarter. And you see the March 2027 and February 2028. There's two midterm paper topping investors' appetite on the trading day via the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange. The second was February 2028 at 4.46 billion in value. That's a very good way to start the week. If you're looking at the Naira bond, 21.07 billion naira in total. Let's hang it there. We'll have a bit of a time later on the program to check in with the market for today's trading day. But let's take a look into the commodities market. Very strong heat wave in Germany, but is heavy flooding in France. A tale of two weathers affecting wheat production in those two major countries. What's in it for us? We have a lot more to discuss when we read the tea leaves of the commodities market after the break. You're watching Business Morning.